Assalamu alaikum. My project for today is I'm trying to build some more chicken pens. I need a couple saws here. I think we'll go with this one. No, that's not the one. I think this one is the one. And that one, but I can't reach it. So, ordinarily I use a chainsaw for this type of thing, but I don't. I do use a lot of hand tools as well. My chainsaw is actually not working well right now, so it's gonna be the old-fashioned hand saws. And this also makes me think of another issue with living off the grid. I think that some people, especially like when they're first coming from like a city or whatever and wanting to live off grid, I think a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to, I'm not really sure how to word it, but trying to make things, they spend so much time trying to make things easy that if they would have just went ahead and did it by hand, they would have already been done, you know. For example, one guy that, one of the first families that stayed with me, come chore time, of course, we light the kerosene lanterns in the barn and put our headlamps on and get to work. Well, they're telling us, you know, we've got some these battery operated floodlights, and you know, they would just provide so much more light for us. You know, and they wanted to go get their floodlights and set them up and show us how bright that they got these battery lights. So, you know, I didn't argue with them. I told them, sure, if you want to set them up, go for it. But I didn't like it because, to me, the light handicaps you because it's so bright that when you get out into the dark, then you can't see at all. I'd rather just have a dim light, and then I can see in the dark much better. So to me, the bright light is a handicap. But they spent a lot of time. It took them half an hour to set up all the lighting, and then it probably took us a half an hour to feed, and then I don't know, 15-20 minutes into the feeding, the lights went dead, and then we were stuck in the dark. So I think that a lot of times I've noticed people will spend a big amount of time trying to make a job easier just because they don't want to, you know, do it by hand. And at the end of the day, sometimes there isn't no easy way. You just gotta do it, especially when it comes to living off the grid. Some things there's just no easy way to do it, and you just got to get your hands dirty and get the old handsaw and just start using elbow grease. So I think there's a balance, and you have to be able to weigh the balance on you know, is it worth the time and setup to go try to set up this modern convenience, or, you know, is it, you know, just as fast to just do it, you know, yourself, but by hand. So that becomes the finding that balance, I guess, is maybe hard. You know, I think it could be hard if you didn't For me, my experience was that I always belonged to a community which already set those types of guidelines. So there was no option in it. You just had to do it how they said to do it. But if you're coming into it from from the city perspective, not the way that we got into it, then um, trying to decide, I have seen people waste a lot of time trying to figure out an easier way, only to find out that the easiest way would have been to just go ahead and pick up the buckets and carry them, rather than well, maybe if we buy these little motor carts that are $6,000 and we can use them to haul everything, and at the end of the day, the point of living off grid, I guess, is the reason why it's supposed to be the best lifestyle, the most healthiest people. They were saying I don't know, it was probably 10, 15 years ago, I heard a news report where they were saying that the healthiest elderly people in America are the people in the Amish culture, because they never stop working and they stay active. When past the age that most people retire, they just continue to stay active because it's just part of life. And so and to addition to that they don't drink alcohol or do drugs. But the combination of all that, they were figuring is why the Amish people are the most healthiest elderly people in the United States. So to cut out make everything so easy that you don't have to do nothing is bad for your health in a sense too. Just food for thought. This definitely isn't the funnest way to do it, but in this situation, it's the most convenient for me. What I'm actually doing is building some more fly pens. This is the way that I do it to save money. I usually make them out of pallets. If you look here, you can see. And the legs and stuff here, this is all scrap wood. Some deck boards and some old 2x4s. I try to spend as little money as possible on the actual buildings to just make it cost efficient, because the birds actually cost so much money. A breeding pair usually costs around $1,000. So sometimes double that. But so to keep my costs efficient, I try to build my pens all out of used free lumber and then just paint them and keep them that way. This is when we started on. We haven't quite finished, and all these have been built out of scrap wood that $10 or less for each pen. Some of them nothing, just all free lumber. But so a lot of times for building, even when we built the main barn up there, we used a chainsaw to cut a lot of boards. But other than that, it's a chainsaw or a hand saw like this. And anytime I go to a sale or antique store, I always pick up hand saws. It's invaluable to have good sharp hand saws. And I even have quite a few that I inherited from my dad as well. So. Another example of this situation where, like I was saying, I feel a lot of people put a whole lot of time and effort into making things so easy, and that they, kind of miss the wagon type thing. We usually use a push mower to mow our grass. And of course, people in this day and age think that's absolutely absurd. But my entire yard, it's pretty big, I guess. But it takes me 6 hours total to push all this, like all the way up to the tree line up there, along this side here. And I usually cut back there to where the tractor is, and then this whole yard here to the tree line back there, around the turnaround there, and so on. And it takes me 6 hours. I never do it in just one day. I usually do like get up a little early and do maybe 3 hours in the morning, and then the next day I'll come back and do another 3 hours. So it isn't that bad to me. As far as difficulty is concerned, I would say it's probably about like it's just maybe slightly a bit more work than pushing a motorized push mower. And that of course, if you have your blade, if you keep your blades really sharp, it's probably about, like I was saying, it's probably about just slightly more work than using a gas powered push mower if you keep the blades sharp. And as far as economics are concerned, like I say, it would take me about 6 hours to cut the entire grass with a push mower, and versus I could use a gas mower, rider mower. I've used my neighbor's before to cut the grass, and I think I did it in about 4.5 to 5 hours, and it probably cost me $15 worth of gas. Plus, if I bought the mower, I know zero-turn mowers new are I think they're anywhere from $2,000 to $15,000. So it just doesn't seem like you just have to weigh the odds. What is for us? That $2,000, I'd rather put that into buying a good workhorse, or buying a piece of machinery that I could buy a hay mower for $2,000, and really cut some grass, and it would be ground driven, and wouldn't require any gasoline to run it, etc. So it's just you have to make some sacrifices to make everything work. You can't have everything, and you just got to decide what is worth the effort, I guess. For different people, it's probably different, but living off the grid overall, a lot of the these gadgets and stuff, they're fun and handy, but they don't really pay for themselves to make it worthwhile in that regard. So yeah, my advice on that is just don't spend too much time trying to make everything easy. You got to weigh the odds and see, is it worth the trouble that you're going to go through to make things easier. In other words, don't try to shoot a mouse with a machine gun. It might be easier to, instead of spending all the money on the machine gun, why not just go grab a 2x4 off the scrap board pile and whack the mouse, rather than, it's just a way of thinking, that you develop, and I notice a lot of times people will really go through a lot of work to try to supposedly make the job easier, but in the end, it's if you look at it from outside looking in, they've actually made the job more work. And also, you can't discount the satisfaction that you get from a job well done. more than anything, I think it affects emotionally how you feel about yourself. You feel more confident about yourself. If you know, just get your hands dirty and do some good work, and you're proud to show what you've done at the end of the day versus, you know, taking the easiest way, and then obviously that's going to diminish the quality as well in a lot of cases. Not all cases. It depends. Like for woodworking, for an example, um, we use a lot more in order to keep up with the market, to make nice wooden furniture or whatever. It's just impossible, I think, to do it all by hand. And so we just weigh the odds that, the table saw is invaluable if you can get it to work without electricity, and so is the hand saw. There's a place for both of them, and we try to embrace both in balance, and try to keep it balanced, and throwing in there the costs and what are the benefits of it. And there's no shame in being old-fashioned to me. To us, there's no shame. You don't have to be ashamed of being old-fashioned. You don't have to have the newest gadgets or whatever. That's not really what's going to bring happiness anyways. It's just going to bring more debt, which is going to bring more depression. So that's just my view on it, and hopefully it helps somebody else, in this situation. Another challenge to living off the grid has to do with time management. This is especially in regards to if you use horse and buggy for your main transportation. So a horse is, for us anyways, it depends. Different people are different, but we don't usually go more than 12 to 15 mile radius from home with a horse and buggy. So, and because the horse and buggy is slow, that means that you have to plan your trips. If you're going to go somewhere, especially if it's far, it might be an all-day thing. So you want to plan to try to get everything along the way that you might need for the next couple weeks in that route, and try to make your trip count. Anything you might need from the hardware. Wednesday I might need screws to work on a project. I know I don't have enough, and we'll also need some maybe we'll need some propane for the refrigerator, or maybe we're almost out of sugar, and so you really have to the wise person really plans out, if you're going to go somewhere. Mostly you just stay home and work the farm. But if you're going to go somewhere, you really want to make your trip count. And I think that's something too that's maybe coming from the city, because anytime you need something, you just run to the store and grab it real quick. And you might go to the store. I mean, maybe the neighbors, they go to the store 10 or 15 times a day. We see them going out the driveway, heading to the store. But for us, it just isn't practical. If we just ran every time we needed something, we would never get anything done, because the horse, only go from anywhere from my horse is probably average 8 to 10 miles an hour. Different horses are different, but that's what my horses would probably average in speed. So, if I pick Monday as my day to run around, I go to town on Monday and try to get everything I need for the next week or two. And that can be hard to get yourself used to a schedule where you are only going once every couple weeks to town, and you really have to change the way you think too, to make sure that you are making your trip all inclusive, getting the most out of every part of it, basically. That's something that I noticed with having different people come and stay with us, for an extended period of time, as they want to make these quick runs, and to us it's a lot of wasted time. We don't really want to go to town just because we're out of screws. We'll just use nails and make it work till next week, and then we'll go and make the trip worthwhile and get everything we need. And the same thing with if you need to go far and hire a driver, sometimes, for example, picking up my buggy from the buggy shop, they usually charge me about $70 to $100, depending on the driver, to go there and come back round trip. So I got to have an extra $100 on top of whatever I want to buy, depending on how far I want to go. So it changes things a lot. It makes you think twice about, do you really need that bad, And to me, I like that because, I feel like I'm being more frugal, and I'm spending my money more wisely, making everything count if I plan my trips that way. And as far as, is it economical to drive a horse and buggy or not, I think that it is. Because of the insurance and the car payment. Of course, horses right now are really going up. A good driving horse right now is, I think, bottom dollar. If you want a good driving horse with no problem, no kind of hiccups or little problems, you're looking at probably $4,000 bottom dollar on up, which is really high. When I first bought a horse, I think I only paid $1,000, and now they're $4,000 for the same horse. But anyways, sometimes you wonder, is it worth, is it paying out? But I think by the time you pay the insurance and the car payments, it is a little bit cheaper to have a driver, because I don't have to pay car insurance every month or maintenance and repair. A lot of the buggy maintenance I could do myself with just the wood. It's like, the wheels and stuff that need a machine work. I think in the end, if you can deal with not always having a ride ready, then it definitely can be a cheaper way to live. And it's just, once again, about how strong of a mind do you have, and if you're willing to work through the odds. Of course, it pays big to make friends, because there's been a lot of times that I couldn't afford to go places, but I had a friend that was going there, and they were willing to come and get me if I gave them $15, $20 in gas. So it makes you learn to network, and that's a huge part of, if you want to live a decent life, living this lifestyle, networking is where it's at. If you don't have like a community or support group, it would be very hard to do this all on your own. And it teaches you to network, and it's also an important principle in our religion. Islam teaches you that you should take care of your neighbor like you would take care of yourself. That's really important to us. And also, Islam is opposed to insurance. Having insurance is considered sinful in our religion. So that's something that we also have in common with the Amish. A lot of people probably don't realize that. But a lot of the scholars have said, when you live in a country like America where it's against the law not to have insurance, then you kind of have to choose the lesser evil. But there is also the option of using a horse and buggy, and hiring a ride. So that's one way around it. Not that you have to choose in your life. Maybe if you live in a big city and there's no way to do it, then the lesser evil would be to own a car. So I'm not criticizing any Muslims who use a car, but I'm just saying that, that's kind of some of the drive in the horsepower and avoiding paying insurance. And some of it can't be avoided, but we still have to try our best. And so those are just some challenges too that food for thought, I guess.